Okay, hello and welcome to the lunchtime sales chat. I am actually trying to get this to go on Facebook Live at the same time, so bear with me just a second as I try to multitask here. Okay. See, learning experience. If your connection is a little slow, it will end your live video stream on Facebook. So we'll try this one more time. Okay, looks like I am live on Facebook as well. So wonderful. So if you're on Blab, if you're on Facebook, I am very happy for you to join today. We are going to discuss some of the challenges in sales today and what we can do to start fixing them. Now, obviously, in 30 minutes time, we're not going to fix everything, but I want to start going over some of the systems that can be put in place to overcome the challenges that we have now. So first of all, sales is very different than it used to be. Even in just the 16 years that I've been doing it, things have changed drastically. And I don't just mean by the tools that now we all have in technology, though that is a big part of it, but it's the buyers themselves that have really changed quite a bit. And that is due to, in large part, technology, the internet. Buyers are just a lot more informed, or they want to educate themselves on the products or the services that you may be offering. So they are going out online and researching things that they are wanting or needing in their business, and no longer really depending on a sales rep just walking in their door and presenting something to them. Okay, sales has kind of become like a four-letter word in some conversations, and you've heard that, oh, you're too salesy, it becomes there's a negative connotation there, and there really shouldn't be. But that's because buyers don't want to be sold, they want to buy. They want to come to the conclusion themselves on what they need and who they want to get that from. So we have to start adapting to that as salespeople, as sales teams, and as companies. We have to start adapting to the way that the buyers are preferring to make their purchases. So many of you have probably experienced this yourself on the buying side. A lot of times you don't want someone just calling you out of the blue trying to sell you something that you really haven't even thought about. Okay. In a past position, I was a marketing manager, and we did a lot of promotional things, a lot of events. So there were a lot of times that I had to purchase promotional items. And there were a lot of companies that started calling me because of this, wanting to meet me, wanting to come to the office to talk to me about what they had to offer. And I really was not very willing to meet with people. Number one, if it wasn't the time of year that I really needed something, I didn't really want to, take up my time that was very busy with having an appointment, with having a meeting with someone whose services I really just didn't need at that moment. Also, I like to look for things myself. I knew what I wanted or had in mind some kind of category that I was looking for, and I wanted to kind of shop around. I wanted to see who had what their pricing was, what their turnaround time was, what their return policies were, et cetera. And those were things I really wanted to find out myself. And I would maybe narrow it down to a couple people that I would then talk to their rep to see, which one would really work the best for our company. So it's just different. That's kind of the buying style you're going to really run into a lot now. Okay, so what can we do? This is an issue that a lot of sales reps will bring up. A lot of companies will bring up, saying, "Oh my goodness, it's getting harder and harder to get in front of people. The gatekeepers are really tough now. They won't let anybody back there." Or, "Hey, we did a trade show, but none of the major decision makers were there." I have a company that didn't want to do trade shows anymore because they felt like they were just throwing money away, because the main decision makers were not the ones that were actually attending the trade shows and the conferences anymore. So it's just become a bigger challenge. But just like many other challenges out there, this can also be overcome by having the right systems in place and by structuring things a little differently. Okay. So we touched on this last week a little bit. I talked about, from a sales perspective and from a management perspective, why we don't want the sales rep to have to kind of do everything, every task, from cold calling to setting appointments, to selling it, to maintaining it, to upselling it, to putting out the fires, to collecting the payments, etc. We did talk a little bit about that as far as just kind of my thoughts on why that's not the ideal setup. But I want to dig into that just a little bit more today and kind of show you how maybe we can structure your systems, your sales team, so that we are more in line with what the buyers are looking for and what their behaviors are. Okay, so right now, there's multiple ways to communicate with buyers. You'll see that some people prefer social media. Others prefer, the traditional phone call or a walk-in. Others do email. There's so many ways now to touch your client, right? So sales reps who are out there trying to maneuver all of this will not really be as effective as someone who can focus on what they really should be focusing on, which is closing the sale. Okay. So past hiring processes that I've been part of, we're really looking for a well-rounded sales rep because everything, again, was put on one salesperson. We needed someone who knew how to cold call, someone who had been in the industry for a while and maybe had some connections, someone who knew how to get past the gatekeeper, someone who knew how to, nurture that and get them to an appointment. And then from that appointment, getting down to a presentation and really closing the sale, and then making sure that not only did the person agree to buy, but they went through with it. Okay, so we were looking for all of those things, but what we found, and what you may have found already, is that it's tough to find someone who's good at all of those things and who will not only be good at it, but will be efficient and will be able to do all of those tasks in a manner which does not slow down the sales process. It's tough. But what's the most important thing about a salesperson is their closing ability. That's what you're really getting a salesperson for. They've got to be able to close a deal. If a salesperson cannot close a deal, then it's really kind of a pointless role for them. They shouldn't really be there if they cannot close a deal. Okay. So if you get a salesperson who is well-rounded, it's probably a rare find. So what we want to do is kind of get out of the old school way of doing these things and really look at how can you use your sales rep to the highest potential. So what we want to look at is for you to try to break up your sales tasks into maybe 3 different roles. Okay, you want one that's really strictly about lead generation. So you're going to have lead generation, and then you've got to then have that middle section where you nurture these leads. Okay. Then from nurturing these leads, you will then get to the closing portion. Okay. So let me kind of take each one and go over each section. So lead generation right now has been completely in the old school way of doing things, has been, oh my goodness, excuse me. Apologize about that. Has been solely and completely dependent on a person. So most companies will put that entire task on a person. Now, we're not going to want to eliminate people from this. Obviously, this is still very important. They've got to go out there and generate leads. But if you're relying completely on an individual to do it, it is going to drive up the costs of your leads. Okay. You can kind of check out some articles on this. I unfortunately can't show anything on the screen and record at the same time on Blab, so I can't pull out any of the charts and the past data that has been collected. But if you look at lead generation, you may not really have a method right now of looking to see how much each of your leads are costing you. But if you go back and try to calculate that, you'll see that it's probably a lot higher than you think. We've had companies who have looked at it and think, oh, you know, it's maybe $100 a lead. But when they look at it, it may be 3, 4, 5 times more than what they have thought. Okay, so people are essential to everything that we do, but we want to start using some technology and some systems in there so that you can reduce the cost of those leads and you can be more effective. You can also generate leads faster and you can generate more. Okay, so we don't want it to be completely reliant on just a sales rep. Or even if you have separated it and have like a hunter role out there. So that, like we discussed last week, not all sales reps are really good at cold calling. Right? I've seen some of the data from past reps, and sometimes they're calling on 50, 60, 70, 80 people in 1 week and not really getting any appointments out of it. So that's not efficient, and it's costing your company a lot of money. Okay. Now on to the next step, which is lead nurturing. Sometimes we really kind of just skip that whole piece of it altogether. Now the large companies, of course, are doing a great job at this, but a lot of the local businesses out there, a lot of the small, medium-sized B2B businesses out there are completely skipping this piece. When you get a lead, not all leads are created equal. Okay. Just because a business looks great on paper, meaning their demographics is right, they're the right size of business, they have the right number of employees, they're the right type of industry that you sell to, it doesn't mean they're going to be the ideal lead for you. Okay, right now we're kind of skipping the step of nurturing the lead and we're going straight to trying to sell them something, even if they've shown really no interest in speaking to us or looking into what we have. Okay, so that's really important to start looking at nurturing the lead. So again, this is where different technologies and systems can come in place. Okay. If we can start using technology a little bit more, maybe the web, to start generating leads, we can also use those same systems to start nurturing the leads. Like I said before, buyers want to educate themselves. They don't want us to just come out there and try to sell them something. They want to educate themselves. They want to research these things. So let's give them what they're looking for. And at the same time, you're also helping to reduce the cost of each lead. Okay, so let's provide them content that will educate them. Let's give them information to help them kind of go through that sales process on their own. Okay. And this is where lead scoring will come into play. Many of you may already use a CRM that does lead scoring. If not, you can look into systems that do lead scoring or can even do kind of your own system that you can come up with. Whatever the case may be, it's important to start scoring these leads, meaning we want to know, based on the different actions that these buyers take, where they kind of are in the sales process. Are they just kind of looking but showing really no interest? Or are they going through the steps that are showing us, wow, this buyer is really ready to go. They want to know more. They're interested. They're already looking at how this can solve a problem in their business. And that's when we want to get a closer in front of them to get that deal closed. Okay. So again, if we're kind of separating that out, if we're going to look for true closers to be on our sales team instead of people that we're bringing on because, oh, you know, they're good at opening doors, or hey, they're great at appointment setting, or they've been in the industry a while, so they have a lot of connections, they know a lot of people, versus someone who's just good at closing. Then we can use our systems and technology to generate some leads, to start nurturing them, to pay attention to the buying signs. And as soon as we start seeing that, to get that closer in front of them, so that closer can take that business, that prospect, to the point where they are a live active customer. Okay. So for many people, that would mean kind of a big shift in your sales team. Okay. If you look at some of the numbers, hopefully you're tracking that. If not, that's really something that really should start doing, is tracking their closing percentages. But if you see that you have a lot of people who are not that great at closing, that they're doing lots of presentations and appointments, but they're only closing at 30%, 40%, it's time to make that shift. And this is not a system that you can really put in overnight. You know, it does take time to build this and to kind of switch over to this kind of system. But it's something that you can start doing immediately. You can start looking at new ways to generate leads outside of your sales rep. Okay. You can look at having someone who maybe is not a great closer, but has shown to do very well with setting appointments and getting doors open. Maybe they can step into a role where they set appointments for your sales team. Again, let's take those closers, the ones who are showing you that they are great at getting these deals done. Let's put them in front of as many prospects who are ready to buy as possible. So let's get someone else to focus on getting these appointments set. Let's have somebody else worry about who they're going to be in front of. Okay. Because now you're going to take a closer who maybe was only getting around to doing a presentation a week because they're so busy trying to generate their own leads, to now maybe being in front of 3, 4, even 5 people a week. Okay, maybe you spend a little bit and invest a little bit in a team that will get these appointments set so that your closers have an appointment they have that they're on every single day. Maybe they're doing 1, even 2 a day. And if they're great closers, if they're closing at 75, 80%, you're going to see a huge increase in sales and revenue by making that little change. Okay. So again, let's not look at just dumping all the sales tasks onto one person. Sometimes I think we do that because we think it's going to be less expensive. Oh, it's going to take a lot of money to have a separate person to set appointments, or it's going to take a lot of money to build a different way to generate leads. But if you really look at your numbers and really be honest with yourself, you're going to find that it's actually more expensive to have all the sales tasks onto one person. You're going to find that your leads actually cost you more that way. Okay, so start looking to see at where you are now. It does take some analysis, which is always important. You got to know what you have currently. And then look at seeing where you can start to implement some changes. Okay, if you're not using the internet at all for generating leads, look and see what you possibly could do to start drawing and attracting some of those leads online. Can you start creating some content? Can you make some great looking demos that people can start watching? Can you give some courses about your product? Okay, this is all going to depend on what service and what product you have, but there's a lot of things that you can do to start drawing people in. You want to give something of high value so that your prospects will trade you their contact information for what you're giving them. Okay, so not just a little, one-page white paper. Do something that's really going to be worth something to them. Something that maybe you could even sell for a couple $100s if you really wanted to. That's the kind of value that I'm talking about. Provide them with what they need and what they want to educate themselves. Okay? Because they are going to come back to you for more knowledge, for more information. If you can provide that for them and you've made yourself a value to a prospect, they are going to keep coming back, or they're going to be willing to now speak to you, speak to your rep in person. Okay. When I was looking around for CRM systems, I looked at quite a few. And of course, you have to give your email if you want a demo, etc. So I was very, I guess, guarded about just putting my email out there because I knew I'd be slammed with sales calls. So I tried to research as much as I could. I got some of their educational material, looked at some things, tried to see if they had any tutorials on YouTube so that I could get a sneak peek of what it really looked like. And then once I found a couple that I thought these are the ones that are going to work best, that's the time that I gave my email and was willing and open to have someone call me, walk me through a demo, and really start the process there. Again, as a buyer, I was very guarded with my information, and I only gave it to people who showed me they could meet my needs. So show them that you can meet their needs. Okay, give them a great online experience. If your website is nothing more than really like a brochure, it's time to work on that. It's time to revamp it. It's time to give your users the experience they want. Okay. Because you're going to get better leads, you're going to get more engaged leads, and again, you can then just dispatch your closers out there when the time is right, and you're going to have much more success. Okay. Let me check the time. Okay, just a few more minutes. All right. So when we're looking at the lead nurturing side, so that's a little bit about the lead generation. We're looking at the lead nurturing side. Once you do capture them, we want to track their behavior. There are things out there, there are systems out there, whether it's paid or free, that can help you with that. Okay, because we don't want to just know someone came and visited our website. We want to know what they did there and how long they were there. But luckily, there are systems and there is technology that gives us that information, which is amazing. We never had that back then when we were all starting sales 15, 20 years ago. But now we do. So let's take advantage of that. You can make it so that you know whether a prospect visited a specific page on your site. You can track whether they downloaded certain items. Did they get a white paper? Did they watch your video? Did they fill out your form? Did they get on your list? And once they got on your list, did they actually open the emails? Not just open the emails, but did they actually then look at the collateral that you may have provided them? Maybe you gave them a link to a video. Maybe you gave them a link to a PDF. There's a way to now track all of that. And you can start scoring your leads, because not every lead, again, is created equal. The guy that visited your website for 30 seconds is not going to be the same as the guy who filled out your form, who watched your video, who downloaded your course, etc. So you do not want to get your closer in front of the guy who only visited your website for 30 seconds. That prospect is not ready yet. You want a nurturing system that will get them ready. Start piquing their interest. Start giving them value. Start getting them to give a little feedback and start providing a little information. Because once you see that, then you know that they're interested. They're kind of ready to hear somebody talk to them a little bit more about what you can do for them. And we want to use this technology to be very, very efficient and on top of things and proactive. That's a huge word that I always like to use when managing sales teams is you want to be proactive, not reactive. So the second that you determine that a prospect is leaning towards being ready to buy, get that closer in front of them right away. Okay? If you see someone who has downloaded your items and has started watching your video course, you can have a sales rep call them immediately, within minutes. Because as you have all probably noticed, we kind of all have short attention spans now. We get sidetracked by the next shiny object. Some other rep comes in dangling some cool, shiny new object in front of you and you switch gears. So if you are using technology the right way and these systems the right way, then you can be alerted immediately when your prospect takes the type of action that you're looking for, and you can immediately contact them and get in front of them before that moment disappears. Okay. I've seen a lot of big companies do that. I've signed up for a product or a service, a trial. You know, maybe I'll do a 7-day trial of something, a 30-day trial. And I will immediately get a call from a rep with a company saying, hey, I'm here to help you. I can walk you through our system. I can help you get set up and show you what features you can use in this 30-day trial. They're immediately there, ready to talk to me, to hold my hand through the process, to ensure my success during the trial so that I'll want to continue. And I think that's huge. Now, not everyone's going to want to talk to someone, but the fact that they're so proactive and they're immediately contacting me as soon as I've shown that interest goes a long way to securing that deal for them. Because if I sign up for a trial, and let's say it's 30 days and no one really contacts me, and maybe someone finally gets around to me on day 20, 10 days is really not a lot of time for me to figure out something that maybe I didn't know the system could do. So maybe I was tinkering around with it for 20 days, and maybe I wasn't too happy with it because I didn't think it could do something that I was looking for, but it was just because I didn't know how to use it. So if someone had contacted you the very first day and started walking you through this, then you would have had the full 30 days to really get the full benefit, and then you're going to be a sold customer. So again, being proactive is huge. Let's use the technology, let's use the tools, but then let's make sure that it gets to where it needs to be, because collecting the data is not going to be worth anything if we're not doing anything with it. Okay, so if you do have something on your site where someone can sign up for a free trial, a free membership, a course, anything like that, if you're gathering the information, you're gathering the data, but then you're not passing it on to someone who can do something about it, then you're still not going to really get anywhere. So sure, you may have the people that are going to sell themselves. They like the course, so go ahead and buy your product or your service. But you'll capture a lot more if you're proactive and you direct that information that you're capturing to the right person, which again is the closer. So I know I've said that so many times, but I just think it's so important for us to remember that sales people are closers. They're the deal makers. They're the ones that get that done. They are not just the cold callers and the lead generators. Yeah, can they bring leads in? Of course, but that should not be their job role, their job duty. They need to be out there having conversations with prospects and closing the deal. Let's split this up so that you can have lead generation coming from somewhere else. Okay, so again, you're going to have a much more cost-effective structure and more efficient structure, and you're going to have a much larger sales pipeline. if you can transition yourself to a system where you are not just depending on one sales rep. Okay, so it looks like we are at the 30 minutes. Man, time really does fly. But keep that in mind. Really look at what you have. Analyze your current systems and your current people and see how you can start dividing these roles up, how you can start investing a little bit more in technology, on the web, on different methods of generating leads and nurturing those leads to sales readiness so that they can be ready for your closer to come in and seal the deal. So I hope you enjoyed. Come back next week, same time, Thursday, 12 Central, and I will be waiting here for you to talk a little bit more about sales. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.